G'day and welcome to Lessons from 2020 number 9. Scapegoating doesn't work. Or let me say more correctly, scapegoating only works once the problem's been solved. Now, scapegoating is when you blame one person or one set of people for a problem that's actually not caused or not solely caused by them. So you're blaming the wrong reason, the wrong person. It's a thing that humans are prone to do because remember, we like to simplify things. It's black or white, it's us or them. We don't really like to look too hard at ourselves and take responsibility. We do a lot of comparing of us versus them, our opportunities, our advantages, our outcomes against theirs, and we get envious. So that makes us susceptible to scapegoating. It's their fault that my life isn't working out how I want it to. It's their fault that the country's not as rich and prosperous as it could be. You see that in conspiracy theories like it's the Jews and all that kind of nonsense that people will go on with. That's scapegoating. That's what we do. But it doesn't work while the problem persists. And that's just a matter of logic, actually, if you think about it. If the real problem is this, but we're blaming that and addressing that and persecuting them or killing them, as long as we're killing them, we're not fixing the real problem. And so the problem will continue. It's only afterwards, when it's all settled down, when the dust has settled, you can blame someone else and say it was all them. And then you get your PR machine in motion and you've got a chance of making people believe it. But while it's going, scapegoating won't fix the problem. Let me give you just a couple of examples from this year. I saw it in Australia. When coronavirus came to Australia, we're responding and the governments are trying to work out what to do. And there wasn't a lot of information. There was some, and they chose a course of action that involved restrictions on the community movement. But that didn't stop the spread of the disease straight away. Now, I'm going to suggest the reason for that is because respiratory infections are infectious. You know, they spread. That's what they do. It's actually very hard to stop a respiratory infection. It's very hard to stop it spreading. You can do your 1.5 meters and that's going to lower the odds. It decreases the probability, but it's still possible. It can still happen. There's no way to really stop it apart from kind of isolating everybody completely from anybody else, and we can't do that and survive. So it's actually a complex situation. But what happened is when results didn't kind of decrease, when there continue to be cases, some governments, some premiers blamed the population, were quite putting down their population quite a lot, saying it's your fault, you're not doing enough, you're not working hard enough, at the same time as people are sacrificing their employment, they're sacrificing their social life. We're giving so much and we're being blamed for not doing enough because maybe we're blaming the wrong problem. Maybe, you know, if you're not addressing the whole situation, that it's more complex than just what we think, you're going to end up blaming people more than you have to. Let me give you another example, and this is an example that we see. You go overseas this year, there's been a lot of talk about race relations. And let's not deny, let's not be silly, let's not deny that there are vast differences in outcome between black Americans and white Americans, between the descendants of the slaves and those descendants of the slavers and other immigrants since then slot in at different spaces. But when you say the problem is racism, and when you address that racism, when it's actually a very complex situation, and there's factors like education and opportunity and neighbourhood culture and family breakdown and lack of role models, criminal activity, gang activity in communities, when there's all sorts of factors like that, and you just pick one and say it's that and only that, then the more you bang on about that thing, the less you address the complex issues and the more likely you are to actually have to go harder and harder and be more strident and yell and scream more louder and riot more and more because maybe the situation's more complex than you thought. And just blaming those other people, and for sure, I'm not going to pretend there's not racist people. I've met them. I'm not going to pretend that there's not problems in the way institutions and structures impact different people. There is differences. But if it's more complicated than, and you simplify it down and say it's just this one thing, then you're going to have to fight more and more. You're going to have to do more and more. And it doesn't matter how much you tighten up things there. It doesn't matter how much you vilify the white people. It doesn't matter how much you drag them down. You're not going to fix the problem because it's just more complicated than that. Scapegoating doesn't work until after the problem's gone away. And then you can blame whoever you like because there's no evidence and it doesn't matter. We need to be very careful of this one. We need to be prepared to acknowledge that things are complex. We need to be prepared to do the hard work of looking for the real reasons for problems. And we actually need to do that in our own lives as well. I've seen so many Christians who will blame the church, who will blame someone else, who will blame the leadership. I've seen leaderships who will blame the church. And we've actually got to stop that scapegoating and actually be prepared to ask hard questions. Is this a complex situation? Are there many factors? What's my contribution? What can I do to fix it? How can we work together to make things better? What communication can I do to resolve my issues? Scapegoating is easy, but it never works. We've got to do the harder work of taking responsibility, working with others, communicating, and solving problems productively. It's the hard road. It's the best road. God bless you.